Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.
Kumar Roach, and I listen to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Indeed you are, people. Welcome back to another Caribbean Cricket Podcast episode edition. Call it what you may. It's the Day 4 review, people. It's the Day 4 review. My name is Machel St. Patrick Hewitt, one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, and I'm here to look at an intriguing Day 4. First things first, I didn't do this for Day 3. You can see the ticker tape at the bottom. Make sure if you're watching this video, you can follow the Caribbean Cricket Podcast at Carib Cricket on Twitter or Instagram. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to this particular channel. We're on the road to 4K YouTube subscribers. I think we're about 320 out from reaching that, but the game's the game. Can't get there if you don't subscribe and help the algorithms and all of that. If you'd like to support the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, you can do so by going to www.patreon.com/Carib Cricket. As little as £2, $2, £2, £2, whatever your currency is, to just give a little piece for the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. You'll note that I'm also wearing the Caribbean Cricket Podcast hoodie. So there's 2 remaining of these, an XL and a double XL. So if you're interested, hit me up. Try and get that delivery out to you before Christmas hits. I'm willing to do a Christmas deal. You just got to hit me up and I'll see what I can make work for the last 2 remaining Caribbean Cricket Podcast maroon hoodies. Winter is coming. Winter is here. Get them hoodies, people. So, as I said, Day 4 review. If you've been keeping up with the sequence, if you go to our YouTube channel, you can watch all of our content on the Australia versus West Indies Test Series in the Australia versus West Indies playlist. But like I say, here I am to review and look at Day 4. And what a day of cricket it was. If you go back and watch what I said in my Day 3 review when I was looking ahead to Day 4, I said that the best case scenario for West Indies would be that Australia declare at lunch. They set West Indies 500 to win, and West Indies reach the close of play on Day 4, something like 170 for 2, with Australia then having to take 8 wickets to win the test match on the final day. And the reason why I said that was best case scenario is because that's the only scenario I could foresee where West Indies could have a legitimate chance of saving the test match. As it is, we're super close to that prediction. We've got 20 runs more than I thought we'd get, and we've only lost 1 wicket more. So at the close of Day 4, West Indies closed the day on 192 for 3, obviously off the back of Captain Kraigg Braithwaite's fantastic unbeaten century. Australia will need 7 wickets on Day 5, the final day of the first test match, to win the test. How many West Indian fans, before this series started, before this first test started, genuinely believed would be able to take the first test to 5 days? How many genuinely believed that? And it's not that I'm not going to try and gas the situation up or kind of front. This test match isn't close in the conventional sense. So I'm not trying to pretend this is a close test match. Let's not get this twisted. Australia made 598 for 4 declared in the first innings, and we made 283. Australia on the morning of Day 4 in the first session sped their way to, 182 for 2 declared and set us 500 to win. So in the conventional sense, this isn't actually a close test match. But the reason why this test match is intriguing is because the West Indian batters have performed with more grit than I think most people thought they'd be able to. So, and actually, even that I want to clarify, because this West Indies team under Phil Simmons in Test cricket has been performing with grit across the various series they've played: Bangladesh away, Bangladesh at home, England at home, Sri Lanka at home, Pakistan at home. We've been seeing these type of gritty, digging performances more often than not led by Kraigg Braithwaite at the top of the innings. But everybody in this stretch of games under Phil has contributed. Bonner's got some centuries. Mayer's got some centuries. De Silva's got a century. Holder, Noah's a double test match century. Who have I missed out there? Blackwood's been getting centuries. So we know this side can dig in. We know that they can get the big scores. The difference with this Australia tour and why this stands out, despite the test match not being close in the conventional sense, is most people thought that the Australian bowling attack would blow us away in their own conditions. 283 in the first innings wasn't being blown away. It wasn't good enough to get to Australia's 598. Of course not. But we weren't blown away. I think 283 was at the upper end of what people thought we'd do. And similarly, on going into the final day in the last at bat, 192 for 3 is probably better than people thought we would do. But disclaimer, when day 5 starts, we are 18 overs away from the new ball. Just like in West Indies' first innings, I think most of what will dictate today's play will boil down to day 5's play will boil down to how we fare against the new ball. I would love to believe that Kraigg and Carl Mayers and who comes after Carl Mayers, Jason Holder, can dig in enough to get to the new ball. So I'd love to believe that even if we lost a wicket, we're only losing 1 wicket max in the first 18 overs of the day prior to Pat Cummins taking the new ball. But that new ball spell, the first 20 to 25 overs of that new ball will determine what happens with the rest of this test match. If we can get through the new ball spell, I think West Indies will save the test match. Yep, that's my prediction. If we can get through the new ball spell, which will come about an hour and 10 minutes into play, if we get through it and only lose 1 wicket maybe, I think we can save the test match. If with that new ball spell, Hazelwood, Stark, and now he's not fit, but Pat Cummins will bowl if he has to. If we give up 2 wickets or whatever with that new ball spell, it's over. We're done, because Australia will just keep going bang, bang, bang. And in the first innings, if you remember, we lost our last 6 wickets for 39 runs when Australia took the second new ball. So don't get it twisted, people. What happens with that second new ball will probably dictate a lot of what happens on day 5. But that's looking ahead to day 5. Let's just kind of go back a bit and recap some of day 4. So obviously, in the first session on day 4, as predicted, the Aussies basically put on some quick runs, as to be expected. Warner and Labuschagne had a partnership of 81 off 126 balls. But once Steve Smith got to the wicket, Labuschagne went ham. Should have been out earlier on, rode his luck, as he often seems to do. But he went ham at the right time, and him and Smith put on 81 runs off 72 balls. They clearly wanted to declare at lunch, and they declared with a lead of 498. But let's just round it up and call it 500. So they turned around to West Indies and said, can you get 500 in 5 sessions? Or more importantly, for the West Indies, can we survive in 5 sessions? We batted 2 sessions on day 4, and we only lost 3 wickets, which is probably less than people thought we'd lose. Much like in the first innings. So in the first innings, Brathwaite and Chanderpaul put together a partnership of 78 of 158 balls. Second innings, they went one better. They put together a century partnership. So this new opening partnership now has already in their first 2 at-bats a 50-run opening partnership and a 100-run opening partnership. So already in their first 2 at-bats together as openers, the 2 openers in our region who put the primary value on their wicket have translated that to Test cricket, which is why people like myself and Santoki were saying 3 years ago, bring Tej Chanderpaul into the Test side, because to us it was obvious that alongside Kraigg, we would finally have an opening partnership where both batters put a premium on their wicket. That doesn't mean they won't flop from time to time. That doesn't mean they won't get out to single-digit scores from time to time. Cricket's cricket. That's the nature of the game. But we know that at the heart of both of those 2 players is a strong defense. And when you have a strong defense and you can translate that to international cricket, more often than not, even if the scoring rate's not up to scratch, they're going to give us a solid foundation and a solid start. So more power to Kraigg and Tage. Obviously, Tage wasn't able to get a dual 50. He fell 5 runs short in the second innings, falling for 45 runs off 126 balls. But in terms of test debuts, everyone's impressed. 51 in the first innings, 45 in the second innings. That's a solid start. That's a solid foundation to begin his journey in Test cricket. And we look forward to seeing him some more in the coming year because his place is set now. He's not losing his place unless injury comes to take his place. Now, of course, we've missed Nkrumah Bonner in this Test. Lots of people spoke about Nkrumah Bonner's susceptibility to pace. And yes, in one sense, we were shown that in this Test because he got pinged on the helmet. But he didn't lose his wicket. He was battling in that first innings. And I think this is why I always had, not even I think, I know this is why I always had Nkrumah Bonner in my side. Because when one of Kraigg and Tage gets out, you bring in another batter straight after them who also puts a premium on his wicket, who also is willing to show intense levels of concentration and soak up balls and play the situation, right? Bonner was replaced by Shamar Brooks as the concussion sub. And whilst Brooks got a kind of relatively fluent 33 in the first innings, in the second innings, he flopped. So in the second innings, Brooks was only able to make 11 off 20 balls. In he came, out he went. And at that point, if I just remind myself, so West Indies lost their first wicket at 116. They lost their second wicket at 133. And I won't lie, at that point, I was like, well, here we go then. Australia have got their kind of, they're into the middle order already. Will they go bang, 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 bang? But they didn't. Jermaine Blackwood had a torrid time at the crease. But he again, I've got to hand it to Jermaine. I know he only made 24 of 62 balls. But the point is, Jermaine tried to stick it out there. He wasn't in good touch for me. He was riding his luck as well, but he was sticking it out. He was fighting. He was trying to grit it through. And then in the end, he fell to a stupendous catch at short leg by Marnus Labuschagne off Nathan Lyon, which ended his partnership with Kraigg Braithwaite. They had put on 58 runs from 110 balls. And then Carl Mayers came in late on. So sorry, when Blackwood went, it was 191 for 3, and it was 2 overs before the close of play. So that was more the issue. Brathwaite had reached his century, a fantastic century, by the way. When I next get the chance to speak to Kraigg Braithwaite, whether that's in a press conference or if it's a one-to-one interview, I would be surprised if Kraigg doesn't say that he puts this as his best Test knock. Given the situation, given the quality disparity between the two teams, given the attack he's facing, I think he would put this up there. Yes, I know Pat Cummins didn't bowl on day 4, but I think he would put it up there as, you know what? In terms of context of the innings, big knock. So I don't know if that's my best Kraigg Braithwaite knock. Is one of his more fluent knocks, but I definitely put it up there. 101 not out of 166 balls. Kept it moving, didn't just get bogged down, tried to keep it moving as well. And that's why I'm saying when Dads got out 2 overs before the close of play, that was the only downer for me. We could have been in a much stronger position if Dads had just held on to the close of play on day 4. Alas, he lost his wicket. Carl Mayers came in. They didn't do anything like sending the night watchman, and Mayers survived the 3 balls that he faced. So he reached the close of play at 192 for 3, and the equation is as such. Either West Indies get 306 runs and pull off one of the most famous Test match victories ever, which I don't think they'll do, by the way. I don't see West Indies getting 306 runs in the day. I think they'll try to be positive, but I don't think they'll try to show the level of positivity you would need to chase down 306 runs on a final day pitch in Australia against Stark, Hazelwood, Lyon and Cummins, all who have 200 plus Test wickets. Not happening. Sorry. It's not happening. But I think they'll try to be positive. The question for day 5 is simple. Can we survive the 3 sessions? That's all it boils down to. Can we survive them? Let us not forget that Mayers is currently at the crease. He didn't look fluent in the first innings. He's sporting a shoulder injury at the moment. West Indies have just announced that he won't be bowling for the remainder of the series. So I don't know how much that shoulder injury is going to impact Kyle Mayers' ability to bat in the remainder of this series as well. Like, is it limiting his range of shots? I don't know. Time will tell. But if and when one of Mayers or Brathwaite gets out, we still have batting in the side. Jason Holder, Josh Da Silva, Roston Chase all have the ability to bat long and bat time and still try to be positive. They need to put their game faces on. None of those three can be looking at themselves, or sorry, none of those three should be looking at any of the other batters and saying, do it without me. All three should be relishing this and saying, you know what? We're going to do this today. We're going to try and survive. We're going to back to the end. We're not losing this test match. And they're going to have to just come with their with their best foot forward and grind it out. Grind it, grind it, grind it. You know my mantra. I've been saying it since day 2. Soak up the balls, survive to the end of the day. Josh Da Silva was crucial in our win in Bangladesh. He's been there before and done it. He was crucial when he got his maiden test century against England. He's been there and done it where it looks like the chips are down and you've had to battle your way through. As much as I malign Roston Chase and say he shouldn't be anywhere near the West Indies test side, this guy has 5 test hundreds. Now would be a good time for him to show the West Indian fan base why he's got 5 test hundreds. Jason Holder, he's got to get used to now batting in the top 6. This would be a good time to show why it's time for him to become a top 6 batter. Arguably, Holder has... Some would say Holder's got the best batting technique in the side. Some would say that. But he's got to put up the numbers to suggest that. We can't keep harping back to, oh, Jason's got a double century, of course, which he has, which he got in Barbados. But this is a different situation. He's going to have to front up. So we're going to need Brathwaite. We're going to need Mayers. We're going to need Jace. We're going to need Josh. We're going to need Roston. I don't even want to look at Alzarri Joseph. I don't want to call Alzarri Joseph's name. If we have to get to a point where Alzarri Joseph is coming in to try help us save the match, that better be with about 10 overs to go. If Alzarri Joseph is turning up in this test match with like an entire session to go, the game's done out here. But if we have to get to Alzarri Joseph in this match context and there's 10 overs or maybe 12 overs to go, then yes, I'm backing Alzarri Joseph to be on job. But anything else, and I'm like, yeah, test match is done. So either way, this is set up. It's set up to be super intriguing. I don't think it's a stretch to say that as much as my tactics are soak up ball, survive to the end of the day, the actual tactics should be everybody bat around Kraigg. That puts a lot of pressure on Craigg's shoulders. But if anybody in our test side relishes just batting balls, look, again, I hark back to his knock against England earlier this year. If anybody relishes batting balls and occupying crease and occupying significant time, it's Kraigg Braithwaite. If he can get that bit of luck that he's going to need, and Kraigg can dig in and stick in again like he did on day 4 and earlier on in the test match when he batted in the first innings, if Kraigg can do that, we have got more than a 50% chance, because all the others then have to do is bat around Kraigg. They can even let Kraigg farm the majority of the strike. So the tactics for me hinge around Kraigg. Craigg's got to stay in as long as he possibly can to give the others the license to bat around him and gain confidence. But should it be that Kraigg gets out and worse gets out early, then the others just have to front up. They've got to front up. You can't just keep turning to Kraigg test match after test match and saying, well, this guy loves to occupy the crease and he loves to bat time, so we've got a chance. The others of you learn to do the exact same thing. Jace, Josh, Roston. I haven't even mentioned Kyle Mayers, who's currently obviously in. Jace, Josh, Roston. Here's my target for them. All 3 of them have to face a minimum of 75 balls on day 5. A minimum of 75 balls. That doesn't guarantee we'll save the test match, but it's the bare minimum I want to see today. Show me that you're willing to spend significant time at the crease. And that begins by showing me that you're willing to even face 75 balls before you get out. So let's start with that. And also, I think, Kraigg, I'm about to play you an interview with Kraigg, with the great Carl Hooper with him. the only way to do this is 10 over blocks. Think of each session as 30 overs. It won't be, but think of each session as 30 overs and just break it down into 10 over blocks. So when Kraigg and Carl go out this on the morning of day 5, they just have to say to themselves, let's negotiate the first 10. Tick. Right. Let's reassess. Let's negotiate the next 10. Tick. What's the match situation? Reassess. Let's get through the next 10. When you break it down like that and you see it as 3 blocks of 10 across 3 sessions, it sounds easy. Of course, though, we have the small matter of Josh Hazlewood, Mitchell Stark, Pat Cummins, who's now spent enough time on the field to bowl again, and Nathan Lyon, and a brand new ball, or the second new ball, I should say, in 18 overs time. Let's not get this twisted, people. A lot of you have been messaging me on the Carib Cricket handle on Twitter or Instagram saying, oh, I think we can win this. No. No, I don't think we can. I hope we do. I don't think we can. My focus is on, can we survive? If I had to put it down into odds, I'd say there is a 25% chance at this moment in time before day 5 starts. There's a 25% chance that West Indies can save this test match. I'm not willing to go any higher than that. Those of you who think we've got a chance of winning, there is a 5% chance we've got of winning the test match. I'm willing to change those predictions as the day goes on, but as things stand right now, there's a 5% chance we win, a 25% chance we can survive the day. So this is still heavily in Australia's favour. But ultimately, though, at least we're still in the match. Most of us said before the test series, at least let's take it to day 4. At least let's try and give the Aussies a match and take this into day 4. Well, people, we've taken the first test into day 5. And you know what? We might even take it deep into day 5. All we can do is rally people. I'm going to leave the final words to Captain Kraigg Braithwaite, who reflected on the state of the match after his unbeaten 101 on day 4.
Today's history is gone. Obviously, it's important. We've got 3 sessions tomorrow. We know it won't be easy. We know there's another new ball coming. So pretty much the first over tomorrow is very crucial. And the first session, and then pretty much every hour after each session is quite important. So a big day for us tomorrow.
While you were batting, like Josh Hazlewood, there was a really good little period there where it looked extremely challenging. Were you aware that one of the balls hit the top of the screen?
Yeah, I saw it on the replay. I'm thankful. I got some luck. Sometimes you need that luck. So you guys really go well. And obviously Josh is in a really good spell, and it was important, to stay tight. But I was thankful for the 100.
It seemed like you had the nice balance between defending when you needed to defend, but also trying to attack. Do you think that's the key against this Australian bowling lineup, to make sure you try and take the bowlers down as well?
Yeah, it's important. Obviously, if you get any bad balls, put them away. Because obviously they group a lot of good balls together. So I think when you get the chance, whether it's a single or 2 runs or a boundary, it's important to get off strike and plan again. But as I said, they were really well. But I'm sure you thankful.
I know the audio was quite low on that, people, but hopefully you had your headphones on to try and pick it up and cut out all the background noise. But ultimately, as Kraigg says, session by session, 10 over block by 10 over block, let's rally people and let's take it into day 5. Myself and Santoki should be doing a live show after day 5. We've got a couple of recordings with some much bigger podcasts than us looking at the first test match. So look out for that as well. Maybe you might get the hint there. So look out for that as well, people, and stay locked in. I'll be back to look at that very first test match along with Santoki. But in the meantime, we rally people as we always do. Stay locked in.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rule seems coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.